Dude, I engaged in one fucking conversation that could have been perceived as a debate with a friend, and like the impact of that should be studied, okay, by scientists. Like it's gonna be a month and there's still like some of the weirdest losers in the chat still fucking pushing like increasingly stranger arguments. Like they get one whiff of a debate and they literally turn into psychopaths. Like this is why I hate like actually engaging in debate online, because it's not necessarily the act of the debate that that frustrate me. I think that's fine. It can be very valuable. I've done it so many fucking times, and I will keep doing it when the situation demands it, right? But it's the debate lovers that make it fucking unbearable. They are so gross. They are such fucking losers, and they never stop. And they just suck the joy out of streaming. And their goal is not necessarily to arrive at the truth anyway. Their goal is almost always to just like clip something out of context and pump it into the fucking orbit so that everyone can go, oh my God, I can't believe Hasan said this thing. Okay. But as the CEO of socialism, I'm halfway joking. Don't you think you kind of fumbled the bag there? This is the other side of it, which is like originally when everyone watched the debate, everyone was like, no, it was actually really good and really well thought out. And then a week later, suspiciously, after every commentator decided that it was actually bad, and I did a bad job, which is literally identical to the fucking... wait, is this the same fucking chatter? Oh my God. Oh my God. Listen, I'm going to block you unless you literally come back with the actual fucking talking points that you said were bad and how you would do better. Okay? They've baited me twice on this shit. You're about to get banned. You're no longer driving. You're no longer on your fucking mobile phone. You have to give exact fucking answers like you said. Okay? You said you were going to do it. And I'm going to ban you if the things that you claim I did not bring up were things that I actually did bring up. The only way out of this at this point would be if you offer constructive criticism. Okay? Fine, man. When Ethan asks questions, you pivot away. I'll pull timestamps from the YouTube comments. It's not even a pivot. Is it, if it's necessary information for world building, for the audience to understand better, and it's not pivoting away. You can't ban him. He came back for the sequel. I know. This guy has been up my asshole nonstop. This is precisely what I'm talking about. Okay? It's just this and that other chatter who was immediately forced to apologize because they didn't fucking watch the debate at all and recognize that they didn't watch the fucking debate at all. I'm finding the comment. Give me a moment while I find the comment I left. All matter of chirping of this sort inevitably revolves around not liking the vibes. As someone who saw this live, I tried watching this again and it absolutely infuriates me. I've been a subscriber for Hasan for 3 years, and at the time of me posting this, and this conversation was the biggest letdown I've experienced from him. As this conversation progressed, it turned more and more into Hasan gish galloping whatever Ethan brought up. So wait, you didn't actually give me time codes like you said you were going to, and instead found one comment? That's one comment from someone saying I was gish galloping? Okay, put it up to a vote. Do we fucking nuke this guy into orbit or not, chatters? Go ahead. 36 month subscriber. Bitch, you are the one who didn't fucking prepare. You said you were going to legitimately give me talking points. I'm aching for that constructive feedback. And the only thing you've done so far is find a fucking comment from someone else being like, oh man, well, this other guy also agrees with me. That's crazy. How did this happen? How is it that the people, I don't know why, like, I can't untime out this person. Okay, untimed him out. Okay, great. Every single time we have investigated further, okay, unless it's a chatter who just basically doesn't offer clear examples of what they wanted me to do. Okay, oh, here it is. Hasan says profit sharing, so absolutely stupid. Hasan then goes into detail about how he personally does it by bringing up the podcast he started, which friends are also in the top 10% of streamers on Twitch. That's really crazy because I didn't realize that March was in the top 10% of streamers on Twitch. He also has no idea how to answer Ethan, prodding him on how well you can attribute increased value to a specific person that you bring in, aside from try to do your very best. So it's the aesthetics once again, because I described clear-cut examples of how to do profit sharing, examples from my own life, and gave you things that you take for granted. This is a problem with what you don't understand. If we are being 100% real and 100% honest, the fact that I am collaborating with Cutie Cinderella, Austin Show, and Will is negligible in this process. It's not just the 3 people. There's also a fucking producer involved. A producer that could very easily get triple the market rate and still come nowhere near how much money he makes when we are actually profit sharing. Okay? I've also talked about how the stream expanded, or rather, the podcast expanded, and the democratic process that we engaged in, where technically the slice of the profit sharing got smaller for my producer, specifically so we could bring on other people. Now, the reality is, if I wanted to, I could operate in a capitalist way. I could just say, I'm giving a market price to my producer times 3, and then also on top of that, all the other people that we're bringing in, we're not going to do a full-blown profit revenue sharing structure. We're just going to offer them 25%, and they would still make a shit ton of money. Now, that in that structure, if I were to operate like that, would still be perfectly fair, and I'd be the best boss ever, okay? But then I would be a boss. Do you understand? You're literally bringing up examples without recognizing you're coming from your own privileged perspective that your ideology isn't scalable, or at least you couldn't articulate in the moment how it was. This is so fucking stupid. No, you're taking for granted the fact that I didn't do this by saying only privileged people can get away with not doing this, when cooperatives also exist beyond what I do in my podcast, which is the example I used, like the Mondragon Corporation, which is a cooperative one. Not only that, but I also described how a janitorial staff would work. I described how it would take multiple fucking years for someone to be able to achieve at least like a genuine, for them to be able to get cut into the profit sharing once they are working at a company. And this is one example of many different forms of socialism that exists, both under a capitalist organization of the economy, but could exist under a socialist organization of the economy. But of course, it's easy to fucking hand wave that away when you say, well, it doesn't matter because your ideology isn't scalable because you're privileged. All you're doing is once again proving that no matter what I say, it's just about the aesthetics for you, and you don't genuinely think about the material solutions. Okay? That's it. But the real reason why you feel this way is most likely because you didn't just watch the fucking debate and get confused or something. You either watched the debate and got horny to be like, I would have done a better job, and then actually brought up talking points that I adequately addressed, or you watched someone else who massaged your perspective a little bit and said it's bad. So now you also feel that way as well. I know you didn't talk about social democracies exploiting developing nations because Ethan didn't know anything about it, but you absolutely could have cooked him there. I know, but it doesn't matter because I wasn't there to fucking destroy Ethan in the marketplace of ideas, and I was specifically there to have an honest, earnest conversation. Okay? And the reality is most people didn't leave that with the takeaway that this was like a really bad conversation that made me look horrible or whatever, until videos were cut of said conversation and were posted of said conversation, massaged by, the personal opinions that a lot of people hold on to. And now I hear it verbatim from so many fucking chatters. They try to mask it under sub-decline into hater is a syndrome that needs to be studied. Chatter's previous take on XUC versus Ethan. Ever since the XUC Ethan debate, chatters have been fucking getting weird. Yeah. So I was not trying to own him in the marketplace of ideas. I was trying to explain to certain things. Also, wasn't looking at you to destroy Ethan. I just didn't think you made great points at defending your own alleged ideology against democratic socialism. I think what a lot of this conversation also derives around my alleged ideology. Why have you been giving me money for 36 months if you think that my alleged ideology is not one that I hold on to, even though you personally also have described that I actually do fucking maintain my ideological position in my real life experience that you literally personally said could only be done if someone is profoundly privileged. Perhaps the entire talking point for me, perhaps the entire fucking perspective for me is that it shouldn't be left up to wealthy people to be able to be magnanimous, okay? It shouldn't be up to someone like myself to be a good boss and engage in profit sharing. And instead, this should be mandated, Because when it's left up to the owners to not behave like owners and owner operators instead, and to give a fair share of the profits to the workers, the other workers that are working alongside them, all of a sudden you create this insane fucking structure where those who are in ownership positions retain all of the profits generated through the extraction of surplus labor value. So interesting, though. 2 streams have been derailed and not a single good point has been made. What's this about? What happened? Your descent into being a debate pervert must be studied, I think. But remember, you will never be as good as the people whose talking points you are repeating. Okay? That is, I think, also part of the reason why this kind of conversation always is entirely unproductive. Because at the end of the day, all you're doing is repeating talking points that you heard from someone else, okay? And assuming that I'm coming at it from a bad faith position, okay? But it's never going to be as good. Okay, I don't want to derail anymore. Getting a lot of hate here, but my own personal ideology is go for the tenets of socialism without having some perfect ideology. I don't know, man. I just think that we should vie to be less capitalist as a whole. I'm capable of my own thought. I don't know why you think I think you're bad faith. You said alleged ideology. What the fuck are you talking about? That's why I said you're making an assumption that my ideology is bad faith or some shit. Okay? And you also personally, even though claiming that you're a socialist, said that it's because I'm privileged that I was able to do a cooperative structure, as though like public banks and workers' cooperatives could not technically exist in any other circumstance unless there is a privileged boss, because you yourself have drank the capitalism dogma Kool-Aid, okay, and are operating under that assumption. In a way, what you're explaining here is no different than assuming that the janitor would have like singular control over a company like a CEO would, as long as you hired them. Okay? You're doing the same thing. You're doing the exact same thing. And a lot of what is supposed to perfectly work under a socialist organization is a simple debate tactic, for the record. Okay? I just want everyone here to understand that as well. It does not have to be perfect. No one is claiming that it will be perfect. And as a matter of fact, many of the conversation, many of the talking points devolved into, well, it wouldn't be perfect if it was a socialist society. There would be issues as well, is what Ethan said over and over again. And why would it not be perfect? Because we would inevitably be greedy and selfish and revert back to capitalism, right? That's what he said over and over again, which was ironic because then his fear of socialism was that it would turn inevitably back into capitalism, right? And what I mentioned there, and I did this multiple times throughout the conversation, is that if there are going to be externalities, if there are going to be inefficiencies, if there's going to be inequality, I would much rather have a broader profit-sharing structure, and not just profits, but also benefits and a democratic structure that allows people to have some personal autonomy and a say in the decision-making process than not. Unions oftentimes were hailed as incredibly corrupt. They were shot down as incredibly corrupt over and over again. And if corruption is an inevitability, what do I always say? I would rather have an institution that by design has to have the best interests of the working class on board, even if they are a little corrupt. This does not mean that corruption is good. It just means that no matter what happens, if corruption is going to be an inevitability, I would rather have a structure that allows the workers to have a bigger say in the process, especially when it comes to the value that they're generating. Okay? But there is nothing funnier to me than people who say, well, you know, no true Scotsman here. Excuse me, you didn't design an entirely perfect utopian socialist society in this conversation, who then also in the same breath will say, Hasan, you're too wordy. And you describe things too much. It seems like you're running away from the talking points. It seems like you can't have a good answer. How can I do both of those things at the same time? How can I describe a perfect society, a utopian socialist organization of the economy, okay, that we magically move into, while also simultaneously do it in like short, quippy, punchy ways that allow your ADHD TikTok-addled brain to comprehend. What you want is an impossibility. It is not possible to do that. Anyway, now he's fucking saying, this is a very concise and good explanation. I appreciate it. I mean, you're getting bombarded in my messages in chat, though. Okay, well, I don't care that you're like, people are yelling at you right now. I'm sorry. Because this is the second time you've derailed this community in the, I would have to say, malicious way that you have done. So if you understand the points that I made just now that are clear and concise, why didn't you understand it when I made those exact same points against Ethan in the conversation? I think you're on the left. I just think that you were made God King, which is a position Ishan Khan put you in. You didn't have any idea how that would work. That's insane to me that you are still being contentious while simultaneously recognizing that maybe it was you who didn't understand what I was trying to say in that situation. What is going on? A long-time community member was a really weird chat logs like this. The fuck? Oh, he's just memeing about Turkish oil wrestling. Everybody chill out. Also, I am not the God King of socialism, and anyone that thinks that is silly. They are in the wrong for thinking that. Okay? So, as I said, no, I'm being extremely honest when I say I do not have the perfect solutions. Of course I don't have the perfect solutions. There are certain things that we can't even imagine, certain issues that will arise inevitably. Even in the most egalitarian society, there will be new social hierarchies that are created. We do not know if said social hierarchies will be truly incredibly important, like life-changing, make people depressed, whatever the fuck. Okay? He was saying in the hypothetical you were playing God King, as in you were describing what it would look like. But I wasn't. In that structure, in that conversation, I was not portraying myself as the God King anyway, because there's always the understanding that I have, at least, that it is, once again, impossible to fully comprehend exactly what a post-scarcity socialist governance would look like. Anyway, so, Brent is saying exactly what you're saying at 320 in this clip.
Country, if you don't want to call them programs, that's why now for the first time.
I've played this so many times.
They were animals before. They weren't allowed to read. They weren't taught to read. So you compare a country to what it came from, with all its imperfections, and those who demand instant perfection. The day after the revolution, they get up and say, are there civil liberties for the fascists? Are they going to be allowed to have their newspapers and their radio program? Are they going to be able to keep all their farms? The passion that some of our liberals feel, the day after the revolution, the passion and concern they feel for the fascists, the civil rights and civil liberties of those fascists who were dumping and destroying and murdering people before. Now the revolution has got to be perfect. It's got to be flawless. Well, that isn't my...
No, it's not impossible to imagine you are wrong. Right now might not be the best example to put that video about cyber socialism is a great concept of real socialism. No, it's not impossible to imagine you are wrong. What? Listen, guys, I know this is the other one. This is the other one that also chirps at me over and over again. I'm telling you right now, okay, demanding perfection in that moment, demanding perfection, like for someone to design a perfect socialist construct devoid of any kind of issues is unfortunately silly. Okay? There are always going to be issues, no matter what. What? Right now might not be the best time with a video about cyber socialism is a great concept. This one is like cyberpunk or whatever. Wait, what? I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, whatever. One of the things people criticize Hasan for is that he doesn't engage with all of his insane critics. Good faith chat interaction without fear of ban is important in interrogating and refining positions. If everyone piles on people for disagreeing, people won't disagree when they do. It's not always debate purgatory. I agree. Even though that guy is engaging in a little bit of debate purgatory, I think it's fine and healthy to have conversations like this, even if it does devolve into me just yelling at this chatter and telling him that, like, it is up to you to understand my words. And if you come in here with like serious criticisms, that's one thing. But if you took a week to find serious criticisms and all you could do was like bring up someone else's comment in the fucking chat and be like, well, this guy agrees with me, look at this. And then that comment in and of itself also literally talks about the actual real world examples of implementing some kind of cooperative corporation, a real world example of socialism, and you hand wave that away by saying that it's privileged. I only have the privilege to be able to do this kind of thing is stupid. It's your fault that you think personally that only people worthy of profit sharing are those who are in the same industry as me, in the top 10% of content creators. Okay? That's your issue. That's your own personal moral failing that you forget about the producer behind the scenes, okay? And that you immediately assume that every single person is going to be magnanimous like I was in that structure, okay? And cut in whoever the fuck you bring onto the table an adequate percentage of the revenue that they generate, more than the revenue they personally generate, okay? That's your issue. That's on you. That's your own moral failure in this situation. Maybe you should re-examine your own values, that you think it is actually privilege that allows me to be able to operate like this. Magnanimous, in a magnanimous capacity. That's only the privileged can do such a thing. Okay? I copy-pasted my comment. Oh, okay, that was your comment. Well, okay, that makes it so much worse for you because, again, saying only privileged people can engage in cooperative ownership is incredibly silly. And also, once again, if you are a socialist, as I mentioned, you have betrayed your own values by claiming that profit sharing, Hasan is only doing it because, like, he's with the top 10% Twitch streamers. Okay? To be fair, it's harder for poor workers to create a co-op. Yeah, if only there was, I don't know, a government that was interested in creating workers' co-ops and, I don't know, design society around those certain expectations so that, I mean, here, Corbyn had a really good example of this in the UK, which, of course, inevitably got destroyed because he lost power and it was never going to happen anyway. Okay? One thing, for example, for companies, one thing that companies could do if they are insolvent or on the verge of bankruptcy is offer cooperatization initiatives. The first right of refusal goes to the workers. They can go back to their public banks and be able to get loans specifically to change a company that is on the verge of insolvency into a cooperative corporation structure. Okay? This was a great proposal pushed by Corbyn in the UK. This is one of many different ways that you could fund and facilitate cooperatization in the economy, okay? This is something I've brought up in the past. It's something that I could bring up in general in conversations. I probably will in the future. It's not something that materialized in my mind on the spot, okay? But it's your own personal lack of imagination and your own personal ideological hangups in this situation that causes you to immediately just push down these ideas. I'm not criticizing you because you're a debate pervert. I'm criticizing you because you're a debate pervert who's also personally cynical in the way that you analyze the way things could be. Okay? And then your own personal moral failings in this regard, or rather the juxtaposition of what your output is, what you believe you are, a socialist, a die-in-the-wool socialist, and the way that you ascribe value to certain workers does not actually match up. So you have to make that contradiction work by saying it's Hasan who's at fault. He must be too privileged. That's why he doesn't simply understand. There is no other alternative solution to cooperative corporations existing. And now that I maybe understand his position a little bit better because he sat here and described it to me like I'm a fucking child, well, he should have done that in the debate itself. It's not my fault. Notice how it's never your own personal failures, okay? engage in a little bit of self-criticism, and I think you will understand where I was coming from in that conversation and where we have arrived in this one. What if he's not arguing in bad faith? He just misunderstood you. Misunderstanding me is entirely different than you did a fucking horrible job. I was genuinely upset. You pivoted away from Ethan and said you couldn't immediately answer and just generally talked around his points. Please stop giving people good faith when they do not come here in good faith. Okay? And then he had a week after that mishap. After that mishap, he had a week to not be smarmy and annoying, but instead actually come up with real, genuine, constructive criticisms, which is what my expectation was. Okay? But instead, he kept up the smarminess. He kept up the fucking annoying, petulant, I'm going to be a nuisance attitude, and didn't actually bring anything to the table that was constructive at all. Man, I'm saying I think you could have had better points. I just think that Ethan didn't pick up what you were putting down because it was a bit too wordy. I didn't either. All I'm saying is I appreciate this description now. Just wish it was more concise. That's all I've been saying from the beginning. It's just really interesting that you're saying that as a 36-month subscriber because, like, I can read what you said originally, and we also went over this fucking derailment again, and you didn't bring up any good points. You had a week. You could have just found you could have found 3 talking points to be like, here is exactly where you moved away from the main point of contention. Not at all. That conversation genuinely upset me. You kept pivoting away whatever Ethan said. Did not do that at all. That you couldn't immediately answer and just generally talked around his points and didn't actually succinctly answer anything he asked you. You proved you have no way to scale what you preach and your beliefs seemed skin deep. I gave timestamps. What do you mean? At 4400, Hasan says profit sharing is so absolutely stupid. Hasan then goes into detail about how he personally does it by bringing up the podcast. He started with his friends who are also in the top 10% of all streamers on Twitch. He also has no idea how to answer Ethan prodding him on, well, how can you attribute increased value to a specific person that you bring in aside from try to do your very best? Notice how I spent the past half hour describing how objectively wrong you were for making this assessment and how it actually said a lot more about you than you think. Your talking points were ass. And yes, profit sharing also exists under capitalism too. But you're then putting up more of an argument now than you did at the point in time when I was upset. Wait, what? No, I actually put up the argument in that situation. It's your flavoring, okay? Your seasoning that you added, your own personal hangups that cause you to retain that information in the way that you did. You are the one who is adding that, well, you only did that with the top 10% of streamers on Twitch. I gave you an example of how that is scalable, and I also told you that it's not, it's your fault that you think only top 10% of Twitch streamers deserve profit sharing. And you also forgot, conveniently, someone who was not a part of the top 10% of Twitch streamers who was originally cut into 33% of the revenue structure. I will never be able to get this person. I will never be able to explain this to the person. I don't think. I just like they won't see it. What is this? Is this 44? is basically try to make an assessment. Sure, there's market considerations on the one hand, like what the normal wage would look like, but that is like the minimum. You know what I mean? That is like the minimum. That is the worst possible amount to pay someone in the form of wages, in my opinion.
Okay.
So you have the market considerations on the one side, which I don't necessarily care too much about. On the other side, you have your productive output, right? Let's say you were making $10 before Dan came on, and now that Dan came on, you're making...
That wouldn't be measurable metric.
No, I know. People think it's a self-report that you've been doing this for 10 years but couldn't provide an answer concise enough to get Ethan to understand you. This is like the eighth... this is the 8th sock account from the same guy, by the way. I love this. I already explained it. This is where we get to, once again, the same fucking issue, which is he has a different worldview than I do. A conversation around the subject matter is not going to change Ethan's worldview immediately, automatically, okay? No, I just had to change my name. Some loser reported me. Anyway, this dipshit will just never admit he's wrong, or that this whole hang-up is that he just doesn't like you. Will continue until you give up something for an own. Yeah, I know. Except he could have done something that that genuinely did that. He could have actually shown a point. He could have shown a point of the conversation that he actually legitimately had issues with, like where I got something wrong or something like that. Okay? But he didn't do that. He said, oh, well, you know, you just didn't get Ethan to submit to your will and immediately institute a cooperative profit-sharing structure in his workplace or some shit. You know, it basically turns into, I could debate someone so fucking hard, I could debate their face off that they would inevitably become a communist. And not only that, but also, you know, I could have done that, or my streamer could have done that better than you could. Okay? And because you didn't do that, it must mean that, like, you're bad at what you do. Not realizing that when I have a conversation with someone like Ethan, one, it's not contentious, not like a debate. And two, I'm not talking just to Ethan. I'm talking to people with very different material realities than Ethan and very different class positions than Ethan, who will hear that a better future or a different way of organizing your workplace is a possibility. It is happening in the real world. It is something that I also engage in. Okay? That's it. Okay. You did fine. I think from an annoying optics perspective, people ended up writing socialism off since you didn't destroy Ethan like they expected you to, especially since you didn't bring up the international consequences of the third world. People might have been more on board with your ideas. I mean, yeah, again, it's not about destroying someone in the marketplace of ideas. And I think it was a productive conversation overall that yielded way more positive results than people think it did. But of course, for some weird reason, instead of people looking at this and going, wow, what a productive conversation, I feel like a lot more people who would be normally on the liberal side of things got a better understanding of different ways of reorganizing the economy. Okay? They went, Hasan didn't fucking virtualistically humiliate his opponent as is expected in the marketplace of ideas, and therefore he lost. Even if I don't think he actually lost, I'm going to act like he did lose, and then my followers will say that he lost as well. They won't just say that he lost, though. They will go to his chat and say he lost over and over again. And when asked, okay, and when asked personally about like where the issues were, they won't actually be able to come up with anything because no one else actually legitimately came up with any reasons as to why this was a genuine L. And, unless you do lie about shit like re-education camps or whatever the fuck the common narrative is, I haven't seen anything that was like positive or constructive so far, other than people just basically finding new ways to be like, you take the L, you lost. Anyway, let's get back to the deficit myth now. But I feel like this derailment also perfectly demonstrated precisely the reason why I fucking hate the culture and the attitude and the toxicity that comes from debate purgatory and debating in general.
Or powerful storms could wipe out oil refineries, causing the prices of energy to spike. Cost-push inflation is often...
Yeah, like, this is it. This is the only thing. Now, you can have anything. Going forward,